by the IATR and the government of Mauritius. And to commemorate the arrival of the first Tamils in Mauritius, the municipality of Obasan Rosil and the World Tamil Cultural Organization under the chairmanship of late Kankanamtu erected a stake, Silambu in the precinct of the municipality. The Silambu, which is a refined artist's work of Dravidian style, was inaugurated in 1990. And the inauguration of the Indian Folk Museum of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, where the artifacts of the Indian community are restored and preserved. The constitutional monarchy ceased to exist from 12 March 1992 when independent Mauritius acceded to the state of republic. And the statue of Anjali Wenbon Sugundram Pavatan was unveiled at Apravasika. The indentured laborer was shot dead by police on 27 September 1943. She is glorified as the Veeratai of Mauritius. So, due to constraint of time, I say that the Tamil language and culture has developed significantly for the past 42 years due to the government policy, well-defined cultural and language policy, and that one brought the Tamils also along with other ethnic groups to a level where now they can really establish their mother tongue as a language which we can say has a very good future for progress. With these words, I thank the chairman for having been so considerate to me. I've taken some time more, so I have got a few other pages to read, but I can give you the information.
Thank you, the audience. Greetings from Mauritius. I will begin first with the permission of the chairperson to say how much we are honored to have among us the director of UNESCO based in Delhi and also covering neighboring countries. This morning in the Hindu, there was an article from the director, Mr. Pasulaman, present here, which opens very inspiring perspectives for mother tongue education, for languages in danger, and I think it's a kind of eye-opener also at the same time for people here at the conference who are interested in language in education. So with these words, I'll be as brief as possible because most of my paper is already on the PowerPoint presentation, and the title of my paper is Tamil as a Component of Indo-Mauritian Plural Identity. When we say Mauritius, we refer to Mauritius, we take it for granted we have a small island that everybody knows about Mauritius, but it is not always the case. Even during the conference, various people are, well, where exactly is Mauritius? So I have map of the Indian Ocean there. Look, you will see well, you can see where India is. You have Africa, the African eastern coast, and then you've got this big island called Madagascar. And to the east of Madagascar, you have a lot of small islands, and one of those small islands, maybe not very visible, but just imagine that one of those islands there is Mauritius. It's very small, 720 square miles, and that's all. My previous speaker, Mr. Chetty, mentioned about the history of Mauritius a little bit. I will just bring up some elements of, say, problematization. I think it's extremely important for us to know, to keep in mind that Mauritius is a creation of colonization. It was totally uninhabited. There is no native population. It was all set up by migration and transplantation. You will see from the details that I have given there that the bulk of the population came from Africa and India as slaves and indentured laborers, and their history was for long recorded by memory, oral tradition, culture and religion. It was only since independence that really the history of Mauritius, as my friend mentioned earlier, went into what I would call a sea change, which the dominated cultures and languages came into the forefront. Some facts and figures about Mauritius: the size, the population, 1.3 million, the various religions, the languages, and more particularly the Indian languages. And when you look at the Indian languages, you'll find that the Bhojpuri Hindi linguistic group is the majority group, more or less 40%. The Tamil linguistic group would be about more or less 7 to 8%. And then the rest, among the Indian languages, linguistic groups, Telugu, Marathi linguistic group, more or less 5%. So that gives you a quite precise picture of the language situation, their relative importance in terms of numbers and so on. Now, it's good to keep in mind that the first Indians who came to Mauritius came, in fact, during the 18th century, at the very beginning of the settlement, the permanent settlement of Mauritius. I will not go into the details here, you just have to read it there in just a question of time management. It's important to note that within that early period of French colonization, we already had, during the 18th century, a small class of landowners, petty traders, and so on, which we can consider as a sort of property owner group within the Indians who came during the French period, 18th century, and most of them, if not all of them, came from South India. So that point is extremely important, that the first Indians who came to Mauritius came from South India. Of course, many of them were Christianized, they were already Christianized, and as one historian puts it, they became Christian, adopted European names, and so on and so forth. But there are some landmarks. My friend gave some landmarks. I will give some, well, visual landmarks, if I may say. Here, for example, is an old tomb of somebody called Jacques Pichard, who is described as a bricklayer, born on 1st January 1700 in India, of course. He must have come to Mauritius in 1735 during the first wave of migration from South India, and he died in 1780, that is at the age of 80 years. What is important here is that on this tombstone, you have a French inscription, because that was during the French period, but that inscription is also present, is translated, I presume, in Tamil. And that Tamil inscription, until further notice, I make a hypothesis, until this is contested, that it must be perhaps the first Tamil inscription in Mauritius. It's on a tombstone during the French period. A few years later, say 3 or 4 decades later, Mauritius had already become British. This newspaper dates, the date is given there, 1843. Mauritius was already British, but French influence was still very present. All the newspapers in Mauritius, even until now, have been basically in French. But you have here one of the earliest articles in a paper in Mauritius, dated 1843, and the explanation given there, I mean, there's a small caption here, just before the article in Tamil, which says that